You're listening to the third series of Behind the Rhymes, the mountain we all climb, with me, Maja.
And me, Andrew. Marion's Miss Love Poem. People better than me have written words of love. They have talked of hearts and white doves. Used prose to relate tales of romantic deeds, fair maids, knights on white steeds. Of love that burns and love that yearns. Tales of love's tragedies, of poison and fatalities. Floating on air, hearing the angels call. From legendary rises to spectacular falls. Labours and trials, gestures so proud. Stories through the ages, both volumes and single pages. The point I'm trying to make is that words better I can't create. The sentiments will be the same. And maybe also a legendary and long-lasting ending. Or another sadly epic fail. Time will tell. From the first yell to the distant peal of bells. But I can promise this on bended knee or sitting on a park bench under a tree. In the end I will have tried to bring you the sun from the sky. And if in that I fail, hands burnt and with a wail, I will outwardly cry. And from that tear will form a rainbow on its way upwards towards the sky.
Andrew, you're reading the first poem that I ever saw that you sent to me when we met. This is read in our special episode for all lovers. We're sort of marking Valentine's Day. How did this poem come about?
Well, firstly, I want to say we don't normally celebrate Valentine's Day, but we had this idea to do a special and that we would tell a little bit of our story of how we met. And this poem was written on the way back on the train from our first meeting, physical meeting, when we met in London. And I wrote this on the train. Anybody's been from London on a train, very crowded train. I did manage to get a seat by the window, squeezed in. The train was late, and I wrote this poem in about 15 minutes maybe. Didn't take me long. I never revisited it, I never re-edited it, and I sent it to you. And I never heard back from you.
I didn't see it. I was meeting friends after you left. So, as you know, I am not a fan of constantly checking the phone. So when I'm with people, I don't look at my phone very frequently. So I missed the poem, had dinner with my friends, and then went back home. And I only saw it the next day.
I thought to myself, this is like all this emotion I'm pouring into this poem, and there's no feedback or anything. And I think actually you sent me some pictures that night of you being out with your friends, and then you sent me some messages the next day, and I was like, there's no mention of this poem at all. This sounds really weird. And I think you probably should explain why it's called Marion's Miss Love Poem. Obviously your name's not Marion, but maybe you should explain why I decided to call it Marion's Miss Love Poem.
Yes, obviously my name is Maja, and I don't have a middle name, Marion. And it's got nothing to do with Robin Hood, although you are from an area which is close to where Robin Hood lived, whether he really lived there or not. Marion is a friend of mine who I stayed with when I met you. And the next day I was looking at my phone and she was standing next to me, and I realized that you wrote this poem. And I just looked at her and showed her the poem, and I said to her, I'm only seeing this now, although it was written yesterday evening. This is really embarrassing. And she replied to me, Maja, I always say to you, you should read your messages. Sadly, Marion is no longer with us. I lost her to cancer in 2019, which was the year I met you. But I'm really glad that I will always remember this incident of not seeing your first poem and how it's connected to her.
I mean, we joked about the fact that this wasn't seen, and I never met Marion in person or at all. But I do have to thank her wherever she is for that, because I did actually find it quite funny, and also, it stopped my heart from breaking a little bit.
Yes, I hope it made sense. I hope you realized that I wasn't ignoring you. It was just London is a very busy place, and I was with a lot of friends, so it took me a while to actually absorb your first poem, which I think there are much better poems written by you, both about our relationship, also about other events. But this one will always have a special place in my heart for the reasons we've just talked about.
Well, it was the very first, and it was missed.
Yes.
For two reasons, and we look back and laugh about it now, and it's just become part of our story now, and part of this book also.
So what is your message to people who are just meeting now or are in the early stages of a relationship?
You don't have to write a poem. It's it's not obligatory to write poems for people. It's, again, we've mentioned in some previous podcasts, it's sometimes difficult to look at that as it's happening and really truly appreciate the special time that is. That first can never be replicated. You can't replicate that. And you and I, before I wrote Marion's poem, we stood at the station.
We embraced at the station.
We did, and I have to say, again, I hate cliches particularly, but, if you've ever seen one of those films, and they do it quite well, certainly in romantic films, where two people are standing still and everything is moving around so quickly. And I used to think that's a horrible, lovey cliche, but that's exactly what it felt like. We stood there for an hour and a half, and that station is so busy, and we were just in an island of our own, just surrounded by people just walking around. And I wrote that poem directly after that, probably partly because of those feelings that I got with you there and then.
It must have been a torture that I didn't respond to.
Oh, yeah, I was like, wow.
I'm really sorry about that.
I put all this work into this poem, and now.
And but your emotions, clearly.
I did find it quite funny the next day when you told me that. So, and like I say, now it's part of our story. So, which we are deciding to share with you good people on Valentine's Day, even though you might not be listening to some Valentine's Day.
From the Mountain to the Waterfall is dedicated to those whose hearts have floated high and crashed low, and to those yet to discover the agony and ecstasy that love can bring.
Yes, I don't think I intentionally borrowed from other people there, but it's a book for people in relationships, and it's a book for people about to be in relationships. That I think that's what I'm trying to say. And love is painful. Loads of songs have been written about that, and poems over centuries. It's love, and the absence of love is painful.
Is that the main emotion that you connect to love?
No, I mean, certainly in that Marion's poem, it's not about sadness. It's about future expectations, what may or may not be, I don't think either. Well, I don't know. Maybe some of us, we had doubts about each other still at that point after only meeting.
We didn't know each other really well.
We met for 2 days, yeah. So it's about, we'll try, or I'll try, and we'll see what happens. But if not, I'll have tried my best. We will have tried our best. If it works out, and if it doesn't, we tried.
Yes. Well, from my side, I would say we probably put our best selves into these relationships, and I probably have to thank my former partners for teaching me to appreciate you and to be this person that can recognize how wonderful you are and to be in this relationship with you.
Well, I personally wouldn't go as far to thank them, but I know we've talked, my previous partners, but I know we've talked about this off podcast, and I know you believe in that, and I don't know whether it helps me see you in a different way. I certainly feel differently in this relationship that we have, but then you are different, so you're a different person, and I wanted different.
Yes.
And I got different, so I really did truly get what I was looking for.
And now, less than 4 years since we met, we're getting married.
So interestingly, in the one of the verses there is the line...
Actually, when this episode goes out, we will be married.
Yes. But maybe I predicted it with the peals of bells.
Yes.
And actually, that wasn't accidental that I wrote that in there. So, because obviously is a fulfillment of some successful relationships that they do go on to get married, although certainly that was not on either of our minds when this poem was written in June 2019.
I suspect that when the listeners listen to you reading this for the second time, it will make much more sense than the first reading.
Maybe.
So I would like to invite you on this Valentine's Day 2023 to read your poem.
And I just want to say thank you to Marion. That's thank you. I mean, I don't know what would have happened if she hadn't prompted you to read it. Maybe you would have gone back at some point and read it, and maybe not. But just I want to thank somebody that is not here for me to thank. Marion's Mislove poem. People better than me have written words of love. They have talked of hearts and white doves. Used prose to relate tales of romantic deeds, fair maids, knights on white steeds, of love that burns and love that yearns, tales of love's tragedies, of poison and fatalities, floating on air, hearing the angels call, from legendary rises to spectacular falls, labours and trials, gestures so proud, stories through the ages, both volumes and single pages. The point I'm trying to make is that words better I can't create. The sentiments will all be the same. And maybe also a legendary and long-lasting ending, or another sadly epic fail. Time will tell. From the first yell to the distant peals of bells. But I can promise this on bended knee, or sitting on a park bench under a tree, that in the end I will have tried to bring the sun from the sky, and if in that I fail, hands burnt and with a wail, I will outwardly cry, and from the tear will form a rainbow on its way upwards toward the sky.
You've been listening to Behind the Rhymes, the mountain we'll climb, with me, Maja.
And me, Andrew. You can find all poems from this series in my book, From the Mountains to the Waterfall of Love and Relationships, which is available to buy at Amazon and Waterstones, where you can also find my first book, After the Applause.
Thank you for joining us on this poetic journey. And if you want to come on our real mountain hikes, have a look at our website, hikingthebalkans.com, and drop us an email at welcome at hikingthebalkans.com.